Have you always wanted to earn your PhD? Today we're going to be talking about everything that you need to know before you embark on that road. Coming up. Hey everybody, welcome to Simply Cyber, a YouTube channel dedicated to helping you get your information security career further, faster. Today we're talking about everything that you need to do before you seek out a doctoral degree like a PhD. First, we're going to talk about everything that you need to think about and come to terms with and agree personally with yourself before you do anything, before you even apply, before you stroke the first check. Then we're going to talk about actually finding and applying to a program. It's not as simple as you might think to do it well and get the right program. Then we'll talk about program structure briefly and how it differs from other programs and what you really need to know. And then finally, we're going to round it out with probably the best part of the video, the intangibles that you'll earn by going through the program and the hidden costs that you may not know that you're going to end up paying. So first, before anything, there's a couple things that you have to ask yourself, really 3 questions, and answer honestly because it's really going to decide whether a PhD is right for you or not. The first question, is it worth the investment? PhDs aren't free, right? Like the higher education institutions are in business. They might have a nonprofit mission, but degrees cost money, right? So can you financially afford it? Is it going to bankrupt you? Are you going to take loans out that you may not be able to pay? Is the point of investing in yourself to be able to get a higher paying job or an opportunity that's going to put you in a better place financially after the fact? Or are you just increasing your debt load? Having said that, a lot of PhD programs actually have grants and scholarships and kind of like teaching fellowships and things like that. Even employers have tuition assistance programs that can help you pay for these PhD programs. The second question you have to ask yourself, you got to be really honest here. Do you have the self-discipline to really persist through a PhD? I will tell you right now, it seems cool and sexy and just really, awesome to be in a PhD program. But if you don't have the persistence and the self-willpower to be vigilant and set yourself on a plan to succeed, then you will fail. Okay, so we're going to talk about this in the program structure in a little bit, but there's 2 real elements to a PhD. There's the course load and then there's the dissertation. The course load's like classes, and you can kind of get through that because if you've gone through an undergrad or especially a master's, you're familiar with that technique. The dissertation is a whole different animal, and it is on you. You don't have anyone holding you accountable. You don't have someone demanding weekly updates and such unless you put that in place yourself. So it's up to you to be able to persist through. And I will tell you, 40 to 50%, based on academic research that I did before this, 40 to 50% of people who are in a PhD program in the United States do not complete the program. So we're looking at about 50% dropout or attrition rate for the program, and most of them, it occurs after the coursework during the dissertation. In fact, there's a term called ABD, all but dissertation, that's usually attributed to individuals who complete the coursework and are unable to complete the dissertation because of this self-discipline to basically hold yourself and not procrastinate. So you really got to ask yourself if you can do that. Third question, and it's more of a question that I'm asking you than a question for yourself, but whatever the field is that you're looking at, do you have passion? I'm talking true passion for that field. If you don't, a PhD might be right for you, but whatever one you're looking at, if you don't have passion, it's not the right one for you. The reason you need passion is because the coolness that you're in a PhD, that shine, it wears off very quickly, and then it becomes a cruel taskmaster that you have to report to every day. You can't get away from it. It's there. It's a an albatross around your neck, I think is one of the phrases that people colloquially use. But you're in it. So once that shine wears off and it's just you in the program, if you don't have the passion for it, it's just not going to work. Now let's talk about finding and applying. So for me, I wanted a PhD in some type of cybersecurity related one. I was very fortunate that Dakota State University, where I got my PhD program from, is very, very forward in the cybersecurity space. And they actually put a PhD program together about the same time, within a few years of when I wanted to seek out a PhD and get one. So that worked out very well for me. Now, whatever it is, the niche that you are super passionate about, obviously just go on Google and type in PhD or doctoral program in that topic, and you got to find one. And you'll probably find a couple, and hopefully you can, based on tuition cost and program curriculum structure, what the faculty's credentials are, you really got to look at that. And just the way the course delivery works and things like that, kind of weigh out the pros and cons of each of them and then select the one you want. Okay, so like let's just say that you found the one you want. Oh, also highly recommend use some tool like LinkedIn where you find individuals who have graduated from that program and contact them and ask them directly, hey, what did you think of the program? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What were expectations that you had that weren't met? I get contacted, the whole reason I'm making this video, it's actually one of two videos. I'll be making a second video on actually my PhD in cybersecurity from Dakota State University, which I'll link in the card there. But the reason I say this, people contact me all the time and I'm happy to help them. So I know if you have a program that you have found and you can find someone who's graduated from it, instead of spending your years and money going through a program that frankly doesn't meet your expectations, you can get that all worked out in advance by doing the legwork and research. So I strongly encourage you to do that. So another thing that you got to remember is not all PhD programs, just because you apply and you have a stellar resume, doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get in or get accepted. I know at DSU in the cyber ops program that I went through, they only accept between 12 and 15% of applicants per year for that current year's cohort. So, we're talking, I think they get on average around 80 to 90 applicants. So maybe only, 10 or 15 or so people are getting accepted. So that doesn't mean if you don't get accepted that you're not qualified or you're not, awesome in your own way. It's just that you didn't get in that time. Now, here's what I would tell you. Enroll in one course, whatever the first course is at that program, if they allow it. Many programs do. You can audit it or whatever. Enroll in the first course as a non-degree seeking student. Then do well in the course. Two things are going to happen by doing this. One, you're going to figure out whether or not you actually have this passion for this topic and the professors and the course delivery and everything. You're basically getting a taste of their program. Two, you get an A in the class, I assume, right? So you get an A in the class. You reapply the following, well, you could take another class the second semester, but then you apply the following year and you put on your application that you've already passed the first or second classes of the program. You already have made yourself a better candidate than other applicants in the pool because not only did you have a great resume, but B, you've already demonstrated that you can handle the workload and the self-discipline to complete the work and do well at it. I'm telling you right now, you'll have to wait a year to get in the program, but you're already 2 classes in. So you're already kind of halfway through the program or halfway through the first semester of the program, and you're demonstrating it. So your chances of getting in will improve significantly. I can't emphasize that enough as a best practice. Now let's talk about the program structure that I mentioned earlier briefly. Most PhDs, all the ones that I'm familiar with, are set up in a certain way. You take all the coursework, then you take comprehensive exams based on your coursework to demonstrate your competency at that and that someone wasn't doing your work for you or that you faked it the whole way or that you're just, not capable. Once you pass the core exam, then you start the dissertation. So let's take a minute and talk about those 3 pieces. Coursework. Typically there's going to be core requirements dedicated to whatever your program is. These are the high 800 level classes that are specific to take in order for you to say that you have a PhD in math or a PhD in, whatever, social work. These are the core classes. Then there'll be a couple electives which will allow you to kind of focus or, really narrow down the specific niche and expertise that you're going to be known for. This is awesome. Now, at the 800 level, there are high expectations of your ability to, self-teach and seek out new knowledge. So what'll happen often is you'll get lecture and stuff like that, but you're not an undergrad. You're not, being fed, basically. You're being shown kind of the big structure of where you are and what you're doing, and then it's on you to go do additional research, dig deep into the literature, and understand what is going on so you fully grasp whatever the lecture or concept or topic is that's being presented to you. most PhD programs will require you to take research courses in basically learning the actual skill of how to conduct research. These courses are essentially a requirement in order to be able to successfully execute the dissertation piece that you're ultimately going to have to do. Once you reach the end of that, you'll have to take a comprehensive exam, which is typically just on the core requirements, since every student passing through the program would have to take that, electives aside. And that'll be some type of either oral exam, typically an oral exam in front of a panel of faculty members who teach the curriculum to demonstrate your competency. High stress. And then finally is your dissertation. Now this is the big, granddaddy mystery that a lot of people don't really understand or know much about. There's a ton of materials out there. I'll do a separate video on just the dissertation. If people are actually interested, comment below, and if you are, I'll do that. The dissertation has a couple parts. So when you write a dissertation, it's a 5-chapter book. You do the introduction, you do a literature review, you do your research methodology, then you do your research findings and discussion, and then you do a conclusion. So you would do chapters 1 through 3 first before you do anything else in your dissertation, and then you would defend your research proposal. So chapter 1 figures out what the problem is, chapter 2 figures out what all the work is that's been done already on the problem and what the current state of the problem is. And chapter 3 is like what your research is and how you're going to solve for the current problem. You then have to go and defend this proposal. And this is really the most nerve-wracking of all the times during the dissertation, because you have to go up and basically explain why this is a valid research. And you do it in front of, it's an open panel, open committee, and they ask you questions and stuff and validate whether or not it's worth continued research. Again, my research was accepted and I went on forward. So then chapters 4 and 5, Chapter 4 is the write-up of your research. So between 3 and 4, after you defend your proposal, you actually have to go out and execute what you wrote in chapter 3. That takes time. Obviously, you have to collect your data and everything. Chapter 4 is actually documenting your findings and then the analysis of those findings and what it means to your research. And then chapter 5 is the conclusion of what can be gleaned from your research and what interesting, answers to the problems that you had in chapter 1 were found or discovered. And then future research that you can suggest for other researchers or for yourself. Then you have to go and defend that again. Same as the proposal defense, except it's the dissertation defense. So real quick, if you're enjoying this video and getting some value out of it, I'd really appreciate if you just take a second and hit that thumbs up button below. It lets me know that you like this type of content. And if you want to hear more content like this, not just about higher education type stuff, but really anything in the information security industry to help your career go further, faster, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. You'll be made aware of every time I publish a new video. Now, some intangibles and hidden costs that you'll gain and have to pay that you may not, perceive. So one of the intangibles that's awesome, and if you aren't good at public speaking, you will be by the end of it, is public speaking skills. So you have to defend your proposal, you have to defend your dissertation. Typically you'll end up writing a few papers and having to present those at conferences. And really, if you're seeking a PhD, you're really becoming an expert in whatever the field is. So you will be sought out to render your opinion on certain things. And often this is manifested in speaking engagements. Another great benefit is you will learn to write academic papers and perform real research. Now, when I say perform real research, before I took the program, I thought, you just Google a couple things, read, 3 or 4 articles, you're good to go. It's not. Like, going back to what I talked about with the literature review, like really looking at what has been done in whatever it is you're looking at, like whatever space you're looking at, reading the academic literature on it. Now, there is a technique to reading academic papers. It's not just reading it from top to bottom. There is a technique that you will learn often in your PhD program through the research course piece. That's absolutely critical for you to be able to really cycle through different pieces of literature to figure out which ones are really relevant to what you're trying to do and help you quickly gain the information and knowledge that you need to be able to solve whatever the problem is. So a couple of the hidden costs. Now, one is, like I mentioned before, the shine wears off and then it's just the grind. And it takes years, right? So, my dissertation, I defended the proposal and then did the defense. It took me a year to do my research and write chapters 4 and 5. I probably 6 months prior to that doing chapters 1 through 3. I had been working on it along throughout my through my PhD program in general. So I kind of had a leg up on that. But expect this to take minimum 4 years. And the average time is about 7 years for someone to complete a program like this. So really look at your life and look at what's going to be happening. I know you can't predict everything that's going to happen to you in the next 7 years because that's a long time. But if you have all sorts of life-changing events, like you're going to move from the United States to Europe, or you're going to sell your house and travel around the country, or you're going to get married, or you're going to have a family, a whole bunch of different things. I mean, it is possible to continue, but it just adds that extra level of difficulty. So really think about what the time commitment is when you're evaluating, really the cost. It's not a financial cost only. There is a time cost, and time is one of the most precious assets that we have. Now, the next hidden cost, and this one is unbelievable to really reconcile, but it is a terrible burden on your family, your loved ones, your life partner, your spouse, your whoever's close to you that you're used to spending time with. It is really hard on you and on them, and the strain that it puts on you, because the dissertation piece of it specifically really becomes your greatest focus. And they were personally, just as a side story, like there were times when I would put my kids to bed on Sunday and I wouldn't see them until Tuesday evening, because I would go to work on Monday and then I would go do research until 10:30, 11 at night. Kids were in bed, get up, go to work, go do research. Maybe I get home before they go to bed, maybe I don't. So sometimes I wouldn't see them until Wednesday, which, doing that for 1 week isn't terrible, right? But I did it for months and months. So it is a strain, and you have to be ready to deal with that emotional toll that is placed on you. So that's from an external factor. From an internal factor, you're putting yourself through a lot of stress. You're doing tons of research. Not everything you research, not everything you read, not every path you follow down makes it into your final dissertation or is even relevant to the research you're doing. And spending those cycles and getting frustrated, it happens, and it's an emotional burden that you have to carry, and it really is something that no one that I hear is talking about with PhD, specifically the dissertation. So just be well equipped to handle that. So if you're interested in seeing what some successfully defended dissertations look like, these full 5-chapter books, I'll link below in the show notes to Dakota State University, where they actually publish all of the defended dissertations. So question of the day: what questions do you have about seeking a PhD that I didn't answer here that you would like more information on? Just put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. I get queried all the time by individuals who are looking to seek a PhD. Thanks, I really appreciate it. And until next time, stay secure.